Hey guys, this is Tajine Brown McBean of Money Coaching Services, and today we are going to talk about how to leverage your money. So, what is leveraging money? Leveraging money is when you borrow money to invest. Now, there are many different reasons why you'd want to borrow money to invest, and normally you would be thinking about borrowing money to invest when the investment that you're planning would give you a return that is higher than that of you taking out the loan. So what that means is that you expect a greater reward, meaning that you take the loan, you invest the money, and you're hoping that the investment will pay back for the loan and you would be able to have a profit, right? So some of the areas that persons borrow money to invest, some persons borrow money to invest in their business. If they are just starting out a business and capital is very hard to come by, meaning they don't have enough capital for the business, and they need that capital so that they can do their marketing, do their sales, do their operations, and so forth. And it will help them to boost how long the business is operating, because, as you know, businesses need capital. You must always have a high cash flow. Cash flow means that you have money set aside to deal with the operations of the business, right? So by borrowing, a business owner would be able to put his money aside to uh, basically hold on to that money. Instead of using his money so quickly, he would use the bank's money and take his time and pay off that loan. So that's one way of using borrowed money to invest. So the person might invest the money that they get from the bank into their business. Another way is to buy stocks. So some persons, when a company is just listing on the stock market, which is known as an IPO, an initial public offering, what some persons do, they leverage their money by going to the bank and say, bank, I want to buy some shares in this company. They're having an IPO and I want to get in early so that as soon as the company starts making, as soon as the company stocks start increasing from the, say you bought the stocks at $3, right? Over time, if the company is doing well, the stocks would normally increase in value, right? So this is why some persons would borrow money to invest in buying stocks. So they normally like to buy it from the stage of an IPO, because there is where they think the most appreciation or the most growth can happen on the stock, right? So they might be thinking in their head, okay, I am going to take $1 million from the bank and I'm going to buy some shares in this company. I've looked at their statements, their financial statements, I've looked at their financial ratios, and everything seems to be in order, and I'm thinking about investing in this company. All right, so that is a second way persons might borrow money from the bank to invest. Another way is to purchase bonds. Now, bonds are essentially loans to either the government or a company. So let me explain that. So you have government bonds and you have corporate bonds. So government bonds are bonds that are issued by the government. So the government says, okay, if you give us X amount of money for the bond, we're gonna repay in say 3 years. They give you a time frame and they tell you the interest rate, right? And because government bonds are seen to be a medium risk, unlike stocks, stocks are high risk, and government bonds are relatively safe, right? So the other bond is corporate bonds. Now, corporate bonds can be risky based on the company itself, because each company is different, management is different. So that will have to be taken into consideration when you're buying government bonds, which no, when you're buying company bonds, which company bonds you buy. You have to do your research, you have to do the calculations for the financial ratios, find out how they, if they are doing well based on the ratio, based on the benchmark for the ratio, because each financial ratio has a benchmark, and benchmark means a standard. So it will tell you that, okay, for a current ratio, the company should have at least um, assets that is 2 times the liability, or assets that's 2 times the loan, right? So number 3 was purchasing bonds. So that's how you use the money that you get from the bank. You invest it by purchasing bonds. Now, some people might consider, well, most people would, when they are buying real estate, they would borrow to buy real estate. Now, some people buy real estate for, say, if they want a mortgage, but that's not necessarily a leveraging strategy, because most people, when they buy for a mortgage, is normally to live in. But other people know they buy what is called investment properties. That means they buy the properties so that they can rent them out, so they'll be making money from the real estate, right, in the form of cash flow. So they're going to get the money from the bank, go to the bank and say, bank, I need $10 million to buy this investment property. And then they're going to rent out the property. I'm just giving you an example. They can rent out the property, say like it's a shopping plaza, right? They get the loan from the bank to pay for the shopping plaza if someone has one selling, and then they rent out each of the business spaces, and that would be their return on their investment. So the investment in real estate in this case is like buying a shopping plaza or buying a complex that you can rent out the business space, right? So that's number 4. So number 5 actually works mostly with Jamaica, in the sense that some persons borrow so that they can buy more foreign currency, especially US dollars in. So Jamaicans, because our dollar is devaluating, right? I generally don't tell persons to save in Jamaican dollars. I tell them to save in US, Canadian, pound sterling. So some persons like to invest in foreign currency in Jamaica, because those currencies have a higher value than our Jamaican currencies. right? So instead of you trying to save up the money to buy 20,000 US, for example, right? You go to the bank, you say, bank, okay, I want a loan so that I'll be able to purchase this 20,000 US, right? And over time, because the dollar is sliding, what happens? The foreign exchange starts to increase in the value against the Jamaican dollar, right? So if you purchase like US dollars and the rate at the time was $80 US and now it is $150, right? What that would mean is that the difference in between when it was 80 US dollars for one to 150 US dollars for one, right? That is almost double. So there is where you would get the, what should I call it, the appreciation, the growth from buying in foreign currency. The thing about foreign currency though, it takes some time to increase. So sometimes, persons, if you are looking to invest in something and then overnight you expect it's supposed to increase, foreign currency is not that. Foreign currency takes a little while, like 2 to probably 5 years for you to actually see this big spread in between the Jamaican currency and, say, example, the American currency, the US dollar, right? So if you are thinking about borrowing to buy foreign exchange, then you also have to think about how fast each section really grows. So you have to think about how fast your business is going to grow when you borrow the money from the bank to invest in your business. You're going to think about how fast the stock might grow when you borrow the money to invest in stocks. How well, you're gonna know with the bonds, because bonds normally have an interest rate attached to them to say this is what the repayment amount is going to be, what the interest rate is going to be for the bonds. And yes, for the bonds. So the bonds are normally more straightforward. And with the real estate, that is another thing again, you would have to do your calculation as to how fast you think the real estate value would grow in terms of your cash flow if you're buying real estate to rent properties as your way of growing your money, right? And then the last section we spoke about was the foreign exchange, buying foreign currency, especially in Jamaica. Jamaicans would buy foreign currency like the US dollar, Canadian, and GBP, and then hold it for a while, and you will start to see the appreciation on that investment over time. Now, there are a couple things to consider before you go to the bank and borrow. And here are the things you need to consider. You need to consider how much money you are going to need for whatever investment you are planning to use the bank's money to do, right? So you can use it for the items that I've listed before, one of them, two of them, a combination of them, that is up to you. So other than you deciding how much you're going to borrow, you must also consider what is the interest rate that you're going to be getting from the bank for these loans for you to leverage money. And as I said before, leveraging money is you borrowing money to invest. Now, and what you should do, you cannot use a credit card. Credit card interest rate is too high. It would not make any sense you using a credit card to leverage any investment at all. It would make more sense to take a loan. So don't use credit card as a form of the bank's money to try to leverage. Use like an unsecured loan and leverage. So other than the amount that you're going to borrow and the interest rates on the loan, you must also consider how much can you pay comfortably, right? Because not because you can qualify for the loan from the bank means you must actually take so much money. Say, for example, you are thinking about borrowing. I'm just giving an example here. Some of you might say too much. You are thinking about borrowing $10 million, right? And the $10 million, when you look at how much you have to pay for the $10 million in your monthly payment to repay the loan, you realize that it is cutting a little bit too close, where you might not be balanced. You might not have enough money to service the loan. You don't want to do that, right? Don't take that risk. Stay comfortably where you, if anything happens to the investment in any way, shape, or form that is not positive, that the amount that you have borrowed from the bank, you can repay comfortably, right? So you're not depending on the investment itself to repay the loan, even though the purpose of you leveraging the money is so that you can grow your money and get back this profit, right? So you just put it in the back of your mind, is that I must be able to afford the loan associated with this. I'm gonna give you an example. I have a client, and she rented out her house, and she went back to live with her parents, and she rented out her house, and she was depending on the person's paying rent to ensure that the mortgage was paid. And when she came to me, I said, this is the real problem you're having, because at no time should you be trying to earn any money from anything where you are depending solely on the other person to cover the expense. At all times, you should be able to cover the expense just in case anything goes wrong. And we all know that renters sometimes are a little hard to deal with, right? Or sometimes COVID come and they can't pay, right? Sometimes it's not really their fault. Sometimes they lose their job. So when you have somebody that is renting a house from you and you have a mortgage to pay and they lose their job, right? Here is where the problem comes up. So never you leverage like that. Do not leverage like that. When you are leveraging, you must always be comfortable with the amount that is to be repaid, whether the investment itself is profitable or not, right? And also, as I've said before, do your research on each investment that you're planning to embark on, so that you understand what it is you are getting yourself into. And I need to say this to some persons. There is no such thing as an investment that does not have risk. Let me say that again. There is no investment on the face of the planet that does not have risk. Because some people think that if they buy stocks, that there is only profit to be made. That is not correct. That is not correct. That is not correct. Right? So be careful when you are investing. Dot your I's and cross your T's, right? So this is what we have for you today on leveraging, how to leverage your money. Now, which one of these techniques are you going to consider using? You can put it in the comments. If you're going to buy stocks, if you're going to invest it in your business, if you're going to invest the money in bonds, if you're going to invest it in real estate, if you're going to consider starting to buy foreign currency, especially you, my Jamaican people, if you're going to invest in buying foreign currency as a way to save against the inflation of the dollar. Now, this is Tajine Brown McBean of Money Coaching Services. Thank you for joining us today, and I want you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you like this video, please click like, comment, and see you in the next video. Bye.